Madison Avenue, the Roosevelt Hotel. It's like nobody would recognize it. That's Midtown. But he came out very strongly against it. He was right, by the way, because it's ruining our country. He was honest. And I said, he will be indicted within a year. And that's what happened. And I noticed the indictment's very old. It goes back a long time. Well, I had the same thing. They went way before the statute of limitations.
Yeah, he says, hey, I called it. Trump was right. Again, I called it. You speak out against illegal immigration, and you know what? They're gonna come after you. You speak against the Democrat narrative, and they're going to go after you. Spoiler alert. Now, here's the thing. How does Mayor Eric Adams save himself in this situation? I think that there's a way that he could save himself that will actually benefit Donald J. Trump tremendously. Here's my thought process. Eric Adams says he's not gonna stand down. He's not gonna leave office. This and that, right? Now, imagine, if you will. Let's Friday morning quarterback this thing. Imagine, if you will, Mayor Eric Adams says, "I'm not resigning. I'm not leaving. I don't care," and he goes full defiant, and then he endorses Trump. Could you imagine? Could that help Trump steal New York City? I think it would definitely help. It would definitely help. I think that's the only way Mayor Eric Adams saves himself. Don't resign. Don't apologize. Say it's lawfare. Endorse Donald Trump. That's the move, right? Whether he did it or not. If you want to save your tail, that's the move. And I think it would benefit the Republicans in New York tremendously if Mayor Eric Adams did that. It's a big if. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but just game planning this thing out in my head. If I'm Mayor Eric Adams, you hear the Trump statements where he goes, "Listen, this is what they did. He spoke out against this and they indicted him. I was right." Mayor Eric Adams should come out and say, "Yes, this is why they're after me. Because I don't want New York to be overrun with illegal aliens and they're trying to silence me. And now they're trying to get me out with lawfare. We've seen it done to Donald Trump. This is why I'm endorsing Donald Trump." He should do it. He should do it. So the mayor's indicted. They say it's payback for complaining about Biden's migrant crisis. That's the headline on the New York Post today. It says, "I am a target." Mayor Eric Adams. I don't know. Both things could be true. He could be corrupt as the day is long, and they could be going after him because he spoke out against illegal immigration. He is a Democrat, after all, and one thing we know about Democrats, they're corrupt as the day is long. So, but what happens with Mayor Eric Adams if he's out? Well, if he's out, who replaces him? Who replaces Mayor Eric Adams if he's out? Well, there's a guy in line. The guy that's next in line if Eric Adams steps down is by the name of Jumaane Williams. Next in line to be New York City mayor. He is a Kamala Harris DNC delegate, and he is ultra liberal. Some might even say communistic, socialistic, and by some I mean him. He's on record calling himself a rocking with Democrat socialism since the 90s. This guy is an anti-cop activist. The guy next in line to take Mayor Eric Adams' spot, Jumaane Williams, anti-cop activist, been arrested a bunch, a rather alarming amount. He's been arrested. One of the times he was arrested, it was for blocking the way of an ambulance. The Post-Millennial has this story. Jumaane Williams, a radical left-wing anti-police activist, would become the next acting mayor of New York City by default if Mayor Eric Adams was to resign over these federal criminal charges. Williams is 48. He's of Brooklyn, New York, and he cleared his entire schedule on Thursday in the wake of the indictment against Adams. Williams has served as a New York City public advocate since 2019. He's pushed for a bunch of progressive social justice causes, as many Democrats do. He's had about a 15-year career. He's held a position of power in the city since 2020 when he was first elected to the New York City Council, per the New York Times. Despite both being Democrats, Williams' progressive agenda is starkly different from an administration run by Mayor Adams. He's far more progressive. Mayor Eric Adams, by comparison, is a moderate lawmaker with a law enforcement background. But this new guy that could step in for Mayor Eric Adams, he's embroiled in a ton of controversies throughout his tenure. He's backed numerous anti-police bills. He's positioned himself as a vocal leader, critical of law enforcement, often stoking anti-police sentiment. Williams most recently supported a city council measure that mandates police officers to complete comprehensive forms for even the most mundane actions, such as assisting tourists with directions. Yep, bogging the NYPD down with paperwork. And he's pushed to eliminate solitary confinement. He was heavily involved and participated in the 2020 Black Lives Matter riots and protests in the city, where he was detained by police numerous times. During that time, he accused then Democrat Mayor Bill de Blasio of using his biracial family as a shield. This is how radical this guy is, that even the radicals aren't radical enough. He has also advocated slashing the NYPD budget, despite the department's historic staffing crisis. Additionally, Williams, who self-identifies as an activist politician, has supported left-wing political violence and extremist transgender ideology. So that's who steps in for Mayor Eric Adams if Mayor Eric Adams was to resign. So this is why we can't have him resign. We can't do that. Just go endorse Trump. Say you're not stepping down. Go full wolf on Wall Street. I'm not bleeping leaving, and make them force you out and help us win the great state of New York. That would be fantastic. Could you imagine if Mayor Eric Adams came out and endorsed Donald Trump? I definitely think that there's a possibility that happens, especially after the statements Trump gave yesterday on Mayor Eric Adams. What a timeline that would be. Could you imagine that? I'd be for that. That would be something I would support.
It'd be hard not to be for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially when you'd see the people that are against it.
For real. I was like, the commies or support Trump. And I'm going to go support Trump.
And again, the flip side is you could get a guy who's a radical left-wing activist to step in for Mayor Eric Adams should he decide to resign. In his own words, the Kamala Harris DNC delegate who's next in line to be New York City mayor says that he's been rocking with Democrat socialism since the 1990s.
So you've been arrested more than any sitting elected official. How do cops treat you differently when they realize, oh, this is somebody that, it's not a regular black man.
The last time I was arrested was blocking an ambulance. And probably because we had a little bit more melanin in our skin, we were treated differently.
What? The last time I was arrested, I was blocking an ambulance. And because of the melanin in my skin, I was probably treated differently. I'm sure it had nothing to do with you blocking the ambulance. This is who's next in line to replace Mayor Eric Adams. If you think Mayor Eric Adams is a radical leftist, this is the guy that could replace him in New York City, Jumaane Williams.
We were trying to get into an event. He ended up on the floor. We both ended up in cuffs.
I found a school paper that I had wrote on Maurice Bishop and his beliefs in democratic socialism and why I so aligned with that. So I thought that the first time I really grabbed it was when Bernie ran. And then I went back and found some college papers in the 90s. And I was rocking with it back then.
I was rocking with Democrat socialism since the 90s. It's a weird flex, but that's the modern day left for you. If you speak out against the narrative like Mayor Eric Adams is doing, well, they go after you. It doesn't mean he's not corrupt. He can be corrupt at the same time, but usually they cover up that corruption in case, if you're sticking to the plan. It's when you don't stick to the plan that they use that corruption against you. Nancy Pelosi's very corrupt. Paul Pelosi, very corrupt. They're not facing any consequences for that stock deal that they made right before Visa got sued by the DOJ. No, that corruption's fine. You see, Nancy Pelosi doesn't speak out against the narrative. Trump touched on that during his press conference in New York City. Wait until you hear what he had to say about old Nancy and her husband, Paul. I'll play that for you next. It's 9:21 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one,
there's
they
no
believe at Members Nutrition.
But he's saying, "Oh, gee, she's done a fabulous job,"
and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Governor Ron DeSantis talks the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Also, data regarding new Army recruits is released. Those stories coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jeff. It's 9:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. So Mayor Eric Adams wasn't the only corrupt Democrat Donald Trump was talking about yesterday outside of Trump Tower. No, he was also talking about Nancy and Paul. Remember this story? We talked about this yesterday. Paul Pelosi dumping stock right before the DOJ brings in antitrust suit against Visa. Yeah, that's just coincidence, right? A happy little accident. As was it Bob Ross, the painter? The guy with the
yeah,
just a happy little accident. You know what I mean? It's just, hey, happy little accident.
I don't like comparing what Nancy Pelosi does to Bob Ross, the legend.
Paul Pelosi, the husband of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, sold more than $500,000 worth of Visa stock just 3 months before the Department of Justice announced that it would be suing the credit card company for alleged violation of antitrust laws.
Ooh.
Happy little accident. Donald Trump talked about that happy little accident yesterday outside of Trump Tower, and he didn't hold back. And I think this is why Democrats are nervous for Donald Trump to regain power once again. So listen what he has to say here.
There, and everyone knows they threatened the 25th Amendment. They threatened him with the 25th Amendment. They said, Joe, you're going to get out. And Nancy Pelosi led the charge. And Nancy Pelosi has a little problem because her husband sold their Visa stock. They had a lot of Visa stock one day before Visa was announced that Visa is being sued by the Department of Justice. Think of that.
I love it. He says, Nancy's got a little problem. Nancy's got a little problem, huh? Happy little accident.
Nancy Pelosi sold vast amounts of Visa stock one day before the big lawsuit that we all read about a few days ago was brought against Visa. You think it was luck? I don't think. She should be prosecuted.
You hear that? You think it was luck? I don't think so. Nancy should be prosecuted. And listen, if Trump gets back in, he doesn't have to have an eye towards a second term. He could do what needs to be done. He could go after Nancy Pelosi. Consequences be damned. He doesn't have to worry about being reelected. And he calls for her to be prosecuted again and again and again.
Nancy Pelosi should be prosecuted for that. And she should also be prosecuted for J6 because she turned down 10,000 or any number she wanted, soldiers or National Guard. And I hope you all read John Solomon and what John Solomon wrote 2 days ago, because if you read it, you'd see that Donald Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. It's a scam.
He's talking about the reports that we talked about a few days ago showing Donald Trump requesting National Guard and being deliberately ignored by leadership at the Pentagon and in the federal government. Nancy Pelosi knew all about it. But this is why they're afraid of Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't have to worry anymore. If he wins, he's got 4 years to make America great again. And one of the ways that I think he could do that is going after corrupt politicians like Nancy Pelosi, and I think that's why they're terrified of him. We have more from Donald Trump outside of Trump Tower in New York City yesterday when we get back, and he targets Kamala Harris ruthlessly. You want to hear this. It's 9:30 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
It's 9:30. I'm Jeff Malinoff with your top stories. It's still in the 70 degrees. Expect rain all day. That forecast coming up in just a little bit. Tropical Storm Helene update. Governor Ron DeSantis confirms fatalities in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene leaving Florida.
We did report that there was a traffic fatality last night. We also this morning can report that there's been another fatality reported in Dixie County due to a tree falling on the home.
Currently, the tropical storm is above all of South Carolina and parts of Georgia and North Carolina as well, a little bit of Tennessee as well. The Army has some good news when it comes to recruitment. Here's ABC's Darian Albinger.
The U.S. Army says it's exceeded its recruiting goals for 2024, signing up more than 55,000 new soldiers after failing to hit its numbers over the past 2 years. One reason for the jump in enrollment, better trained recruiters. There are also new ways to entice recruits, including an initiative which helps those that don't initially meet the physical or academic requirements join the ranks. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jeff Malinoff, WTN News.
Thank you, Jeff. It's 9:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and I got to tell you about my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. You know that we're essentially already into the middle of fall, it feels like, the way time has been flying. And before you know it, it's going to be cold, and you're going to kick your heat on. Do you want to find out the hard way that it's not working, or do you want to get that preventative maintenance now? I would suggest the latter, and if you're going to do it, call my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. They are your experts in this maintenance. You want to keep your unit in tip-top shape, you do it with Busy Bee. Now, whether you need that annual maintenance, repair, or replacement plumbing, heating, or air system, the guys who I always trust are Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And maybe your heat went out right at the end of last season, and you've kind of been kicking the can down the road, but you know it's something you need to get to. If you need to replace that system, you won't find a better value on replacement systems. Busy Bee offers up to 12 months with no payment, no interest, with approved credit, and it'll pay in so many ways. To sign up to become a Beehive Club member, you can find out more about the Beehive Club membership on the website, busybhvac.com, or you can give them a call today. Busy Bee, your Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, it's Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. 615-775-7833. 615-775-7833. busybhvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
There's nobody saying, oh, gee, she's done a fabulous job. She's done the worst job probably in the history of any border, not just our border. She keeps talking about how she supposedly wants to fix the border. We would merely ask, why didn't she do it 4 years ago? It's a very simple question. I can say this with everything she has. She talks about borders and taxes and all these different things. Her policies on tax, by the way, are terrible, but I can say it for everything. Why didn't she fix it almost 4 years ago? She's got no plans, got no talent, got no ability to do it.
That's Donald Trump yesterday outside of Trump Tower in New York City. Kamala Harris, she's got no plans, got no talent, got no ability to do it. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I'll follow back. You can listen to us wherever you go with the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app. You can catch the podcast on Spotify and Apple over the weekend, or YouTube. And you can watch us. Super Talk TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. I think I did all the things. That's all the things, right? Donald Trump yesterday just being an absolute ruthless madman when it came to Kamala Harris. I love this clip.
There's nobody saying, oh, gee, she's done a fabulous job. She's done the worst job probably in the history of any border.
There's nobody saying, oh, gee, she's done a fabulous job. Oh, gee. Oh, gee.
Do people use OG anymore?
Oh,
I guess
gee.
he does.
Oh, gee.
Did he just bring it back?
I think OG is back in rotation. Trump is the OG.
There's nobody saying, oh, gee, she's done a fabulous job. She's done the worst job probably in the history of any border, not just our border.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I mean, what are we at? 20 to 30 million illegal aliens just pouring across the country. And that's not counting the ones that we fly in the dead of night and drop off for the Catholic NGOs to take care of. Oh, gee, she's done a fabulous job. Nobody's saying that.
She keeps talking about how she supposedly wants to fix the border. We would merely ask, why didn't she do it 4 years ago? It's a very simple question. I can say this with everything she has. She talks about borders and taxes and all these different things. Her policies on tax, by the way, are terrible, but I can say it for everything. Why didn't she fix it almost 4 years ago?
Why didn't she fix it almost 4 years ago? It's also great to see a guy that doesn't need a teleprompter, a guy that can just talk off the cuff, a guy, I mean, Kamala had a teleprompter during her Oprah interview. Like, come on. Softball interview. Trump gets out there. He doesn't know what the reporters are going to ask him. He doesn't know where he's going to go. He just gets out there and goes. I love it.
She's got no plans, got no talent, got no ability to do it.
Could be the line of the campaign. And I imagine somewhere Kamala is just seething when she hears that. I do. I imagine her absolutely seething. But she's got no plans. She's got no talent. She's got no ability to do it. Why didn't she do it 4 years ago? She's going to the border today. She's going to do a nice little visit in an area that they've probably cleaned up and swept through to make sure that there are no migrants around, you know? She's going to get her photo op. She's going to talk a big game. But Trump says, listen, she should save her airfare. And instead of going to the border, maybe she should just head back to the White House and do some work.
And tomorrow she'll make a case that, oh, she did a fairly good job. You can't say much. You can't justify it. She should save her airfare. She should go back to the White House and tell the president to close the border. He can do it with the signing of just a signature on a piece of paper to the Border Patrol. Instead, she's going there to try and convince people that she wasn't as bad as everybody knows she was. She was the worst in history. Grossly incompetent, weak, and ineffective.
I think he's actually being pretty nice. I think he's actually being pretty kind. I wonder if the families of Rachel Marin or Jocelyn Nungary would say it as kindly as President Trump just did. I don't think they would be as kind. I think Trump sugarcoated that a little bit, but he's absolutely right. Why go to the border? Go back to D.C. Do some work. You're in power now. But they won't. They won't. Because, see, this is part of the plan. This is part of the plan. And in real time, we're watching the plan play out all over America. There was a Venezuelan illegal immigrant arrested after a gang-related shooting near a Utah apartment complex just the other day. Nice. Tren de Aragua. They're everywhere now. I mean, gosh, Tren de Aragua is becoming as American as apple pie under the Biden-Harris regime. And if we let Kamala Harris win in November, it's gonna get even worse. That's the new American, Tren de Aragua, right? That's what they want. That's what they want. So Trump is going after Kamala Harris on the border, and he should. He should, but he did take a break from attacking her on the border to once again bring up McDonald's, which, gosh, I love.
Just like nobody talks about it, but Kamala never had a job at McDonald's. Her resume talks about McDonald's. When I worked at the French fry counter, it was so tough, so hot. She didn't work there. She never worked at McDonald's. It was a lie.
And if she'll lie about something small, she'll lie about something big. If she'll lie about something it's just so small, so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. If she'll lie about that, she'll lie about something big. She will. But Trump has a very different view on the way we should be governing in this country. And Kamala Harris he calls her the grandmother of sanctuary cities, but he says on the flip side, he's going to end sanctuary cities. This is outside of Trump Tower in New York City yesterday.
And we have one other thing that she's called. She's called the grandmother of sanctuary cities. I'm going to terminate all sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities are sanctuary for criminals. They're sanctuaries for criminals.
Yep. Where's the lie? Where's the lie? Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. So you have Kamala Harris going to the border today. She's going to tell everybody that she did a great job. Border crossings are down. She's going to ignore the fact that we're loading up planes with illegal aliens and just flying them into the country all over the place. Looking at you, Charleroi, Pennsylvania. Looking at you, Springfield, Ohio. This is what we know. Stephen Miller was on Fox News last night, and I like Stephen Miller a lot, and he made this point emphatically.
This visit, 4 years late, puts the issue of the border invasion front and center in this campaign. And as President Trump said at his event today, Kamala Harris is now loading up planes with illegal aliens and flying them into the heartland of America. Think about this, Sean. They are taking illegal aliens, flying them over the border, not even counting them in Border Patrol statistics, and depositing them in places like Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, in places like Charleroi, Pennsylvania, Springfield, Ohio, cities across North Carolina. Swing state after swing state, they are dumping illegal aliens by the hundreds of thousands.
You notice what he said there? Swing state after swing state. I think that there's two angles that they're doing with the illegal immigration. You know, everybody understands that illegal aliens are going to be counted in the census. Everybody understands how that equates to representation in D.C. via population size in these states. So when you have people fleeing California, you have to replace them. So you have a lot of illegal aliens going there. Same with New York City. This is why. They're replacing the populations that are fleeing. And then you have the flip side where they're sending them into places like Springfield, Ohio, or Charleroi, Pennsylvania to completely change the demographics of those towns, counties, etc. It's twofold. It's twofold.
And some of them, as you've mentioned, are going on to commit heinous crimes. A Venezuelan gang member has just been charged in Prairie du Chien, a small, formerly idyllic town in Wisconsin, with a brutal sexual assault. And here's what you won't hear from Kamala Harris tomorrow. An apology to any of the families whose loved ones have been brutalized, raped, and murdered by the illegal aliens that she set free. She will not say one word to the family of Jocelyn Nungry, not one word to the family of Laken Riley, not one word to the family of Rachel Moore, or any of the other Americans whose lives she ended by letting in their killers.
He's absolutely right. And leftists excuse this all the time by saying, well, guys, Americans commit crimes. Oh, yes, let's let criminals into our country because Americans commit crimes. Does that logic make any sense to you? Because it makes no sense to me. But that's one of their talking points. That's one of their talking points. But I would wager to say we don't have to accept any illegal alien crime. And if we had a secure border, if we had a remain in Mexico policy, if we could actually deport these illegal aliens committing crimes, we could lower that dramatically. Dramatically. But we don't. We could, but we won't. Not until November 5th, that is. I think it's going to drastically change once Donald Trump wins the election. I think that everybody understands that it'll drastically change once Donald Trump wins the election. But the plan is twofold, right? You're replacing populations fleeing blue states, and you're flooding red cities, counties, and towns to change the demographics. And we also understand that illegal aliens are registering to vote. They'll call it a conspiracy theory, but it's not. And there was actually an undercover investigation in Arizona where they found illegal aliens that have registered to vote. The Oversight Project put this video out. It's about 4.5 minutes. I've retweeted it on my page. That way you can watch the whole thing. Thousands of non-citizens are going to be voting in our election. They know this. You know this. We know this. But it's on video here, completely exposing the reality of this, that they call us conspiracy theories for believing.
Just out of curiosity, are you registered to vote?
Yes, we've already registered.
Are you a citizen?
No.
Are you a citizen? No, I'm waiting for my residency right now. And do you plan to vote this year? Yes. Who do you prefer right now? Kamala or Trump? Or Trump? No, Kamala. Have you been registered? Yes. Are you a citizen or not? And would you vote for Kamala? Well, yeah.
Arizona has recently become the center of election integrity concerns. It was the most closely contested state during the 2020 presidential election, decided by a margin of less than 11,000 votes. The razor-thin margin of victory in 2020 led to intense scrutiny of election integrity measures in the state. The primary concern is that non-citizens could be registering to vote and participating in American elections. However, the mainstream media continues to minimize the issue.
The mainstream media doesn't even want to talk about the issue. The mainstream media wants to pretend that it's not an issue and pretend that we're conspiracy theorists with tinfoil hats on for even addressing this. But it's a real thing. Again, this video is about 4.5 minutes long. If you want to check out the whole thing, it's on my Twitter page, @ChrisHandOnAir. I suggest you check it out, share it with your friends, send it to a leftist who calls you a conspiracy theorist. Please do. Just confront them with the facts. It's an uncomfortable thing that leftists often have to deal with. They may bury their head in the sand, but do your best. We need everyone to wake up as quickly as possible. November 5th is going to be here before we know it. It's 9:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name's Chris Hand. I got to tell you about my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. With the election coming up, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And we were talking with business leaders in the community. People are feeling it. Americans are feeling it. What are we going to do? What's going to happen? Where does my financial future go if Kamala wins? Where should I invest if Trump wins? Well, you want to talk to somebody that can cut through the noise and break it down for you in a way that you can understand. And that's just why I recommend Paul Winkler. Another reason I'll recommend him is because he's going to be honest with you 100% of the time. In fact, he's so committed to that, he wants to make sure I tell you I get paid to do these commercials. He wants the transparency, he wants the honesty. And that's true, but I don't get paid to be a client. I'm a client of Paul's because I believe in him, and I believe in his strategy in investing. He can break it down for you in a way that you'll understand. He's been doing it for a long time. You got to call Paul Winkler and his team today. You can set up a 15-minute phone call just by hitting up the website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
More rescues being reported as Tropical Storm Helene travels the East Coast. Also, a possible dock worker strike could hit the economy hard. Those stories coming up at 10 a.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
7. Thank you, Jeff. It's 9:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. On the way, I want to talk about some good news. You know, we played the illegal aliens being registered to vote clip, which you can find on my page, at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button while you're there on X. But there's a lot of good things happening right now. A lot. Starting with what Turning Point USA is doing to mobilize young people on college campuses. Then going to what the RNC is doing and what Republicans are doing state by state to clear voter rolls. There's a lot of good news, a lot. But you have to hear what is going on college campuses. You have to. I'm going to break it down for you next. But listen to this clip from Charlie Kirk. This is what's happening every single day on college campuses with Turning Point USA.
So I'm thinking if we lose this election, I'm thinking of moving to Russia, so I wanted to see if you agree or disagree with that.
I think that's a bad idea. I'm staying and fighting. Even if we don't have a chance, you sometimes still should fight. The moral stance is to do the right thing, sometimes regardless of the chances stacked against you.
Right.
And so we might not have a chance in November. I think we do. It might end up our way, might not. But if we lose, I'm going to wake up the next day and keep on organizing and trying to save the country that I love. I don't love Russia. I love America. My grandfather fought in World War II when the odds were against him. My ancestors fought in the Civil War. I'm going to stay and fight. I have a moral obligation to the millions of people that have put their trust in Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action to fight. We're here given by God, I think, with duty and reason and purpose to do the right thing and not to retreat and not to run away. And we're here to fight for good causes. And you would not be able to have this kind of free speech in downtown Moscow that we have right now.
Ten o'clock, I'm Jeff Malinoff with your top stories. It's 70 degrees. Again, expect rain all day today, tomorrow, and Sunday. That full forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Tropical Storm Helene update. Rescue workers have currently saved hundreds of people as the storm rages on. Here's ABC's Jim Ryan.
Hillsborough County deputies sent to help a 97-year-old woman to escape her flooded home. Hers was one of hundreds of high water rescues carried out across Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. But the danger doesn't subside when the water recedes. 2 of the known fatalities were from tornadoes spun off of the hurricane.
Currently, the tropical storm right now is in the South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina area. A little bit of hitting of Tennessee on that little edge there, but it's going to continue on going north into the East Coast and Virginia area. A potential dock worker strike could greatly affect the economy. ABC's Sherry Preston with the story.
The National Labor Relations Board has been called in trying to resolve the dispute between the U.S. Maritime Alliance and the International Longshoremen's Association. The ports want an immediate resumption of talks ahead of Monday's strike deadline. If the union's 45,000 dock workers from Maine to Texas do walk out, you probably won't feel it right away. Retailers have been stocking up in anticipation of a strike. If it goes on longer than a month, though, you might notice some shortages and price increases on certain imported items.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jeff Malinoff, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to MarketSpan.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Populations of animals. I mean, think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey and what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years, I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
You're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And got my first commission in 1972.
Okay, yeah.
At that time, it was a little different, the whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, we got the first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. And I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to. If you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or sailing a pond or whatever you were doing. You had that tie on.
Oh wow! Wow!
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. It was generally around April the 1st. You switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, "Come on, April 1st."
10:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram at Chris Hand on air. Hit the follow button. I'll follow back. So I do some work with Turning Point USA, and I know a lot of the guys at Turning Point Action. And I saw this article on Breitbart, and I decided, it's a good opportunity to mention the work that's being done. And it's a lot of times I find myself as one of the most optimistic conservatives. Not really. I know a lot of the hosts. We all go back and forth. Some days we're optimistic. Some days we're kind of negative. But I feel like I'm more optimistic than not. And part of that reason is the work that I do with Turning Point. And I don't talk about it too much because I'm only a small part of a larger machine that's happening over there. But I am really, really proud of the work that Turning Point is doing, both with Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. And I'm really, really excited when I see what's happening on college campuses and when I see youth mobilizing to win an election in November. It's really, really important work, and it's cool to see this written up in Breitbart. Events hosted by Charlie Kirk's conservative student organization, Turning Point USA, and Turning Point Action have been receiving massive turnout on college campuses across the country ahead of the 2024 presidential election, as Kirk tours campuses, talking with students and hosting voter registration drives. We've been doing this everywhere. They're doing a thing called the Brainwash Tour right now, and Charlie goes to different campuses, and we're getting different people out there to meet college students and have these conversations. Vivek Ramaswamy has been at a few of them. Some of the friends that we've had on the show, I've gotten out to college campuses like Morgan McMichael and Topher. Topher. Topher's been out to a few college campuses. He was at Penn State and he was at University of Pittsburgh. And we're all over the country in these battleground states. And it's pretty important. It's pretty important. Elon Musk on Twitter on Wednesday said the tide is turning in response to one of Charlie Kirk's post describing a sea of MAGA hats at the voter registration event at Arizona State University. And it was a sea of MAGA hats. It's really cool to see because, just a few months ago, all we were seeing on college campuses were Palestinian pro-Hamas protesters in their tents, right? That's all we were seeing. Yet just one summer later, what we're seeing on college campuses is a sea of young conservatives. And even the leftists at these college campuses are taking notes. Charlie Kirk posted a tweet where he's showing the comment thread from these leftists on Twitter, and it's kind of too good not to mind the salt. One girl by the name of Kaylee said, "I was so disturbed seeing all the MAGA hats everywhere today. Confused why there were so many. And then when I found out why they had them on," throwing up emoji. Somebody else wrote, "To think I almost went to school there." Somebody else wrote, "Made my stomach turn a little Someone else said, no, literally, I gagged. Another person, I'm scared. I'm so scared. But we're having massive turnouts. And leftists are mad. When people are registering to vote at some of these events, the leftists are showing up and throwing mugs of soda at people and just bottles of liquid, and it's insane. It's insane. One of my friends, Ruby, she got doused with some Coca-Cola for having the audacity to register students to vote. But when you see that kind of pushback, it's because what you're doing is working, right? And this is them lashing out as they've been painted into a corner. So it's good to highlight these wins. I love what Turning Point is doing. I feel like you get stuck in it. You're not really sure, how it's working out, but then you see a write-up like this, and it's pretty cool to see that people are noticing what Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action are doing. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of the videos. I retweet a lot of them on my page at Chris Hand on Air. But Charlie Kirk says, there's just so much energy on college campuses right now. And this is how we win the culture war. I have not seen the youth as energized behind a Republican candidate in my entire life. In my entire life. Even in 2016 or 2020, the youth was not behind Trump like they are right now. And it might surprise you, but I don't know why it would. When you think about your average college kid right now, think about what's been taken from them. Think about what's been taken from them. If you were in high school when Trump was president, 2016 to 2021, you lived through economic prosperity, no new wars, global stabilization. You could buy things. There was money in your parents' pockets, and then all of a sudden, right at the end, you lost everything. You lost your high school graduation. You lost prom. You lost your job. The money dried up. You wanted to go to school in the fall. You wanted to go to college, but you couldn't. It was shut down. Then when colleges opened back up, you had to take a vaccination to be able to go there. Then the government said you have to get a vaccination to be able to work. Then inflation goes through the roof. You can't afford an apartment without 6 roommates. Or you're graduating college. You can't afford to buy a home and start a family. Why wouldn't the youth be mobilized against the regime that's in power now? Kamala Harris can do her best to separate herself from that regime, but the kids understand what's going on, and they're not latched on to the bosom of the mainstream media the same way generations before were, and they're paying attention to what's happening online, and the conversation online is just exposing the narrative of the left every single day. But that's not the only wins that we're seeing out there. That's not. We're seeing a lot of wins. That we're seeing wins of voter roll cleanups to the tune of thousands of ineligible voters being removed. Oregon, they just removed 1,200 voter names from rolls over failure to prove citizenship. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. We played that clip where illegal aliens are admitting that they're registered to vote, which is scary, but to have a leftist state like Oregon removing non-citizens from their voter rolls is a big win, and we got to celebrate these wins. In North Carolina, a massive battleground state, they just removed 747,000 ineligible voters from their registration rolls. Yes, you heard me right. 747,000 ineligible voters were removed from their rolls. The majority of those removed from the registration rolls were due to moving within state and not registering at their new address, or because they spent the last 2 federal elections in an active status, or they left the state, or they moved out for whatever the reason, but they're off the rolls. And if you're worried about fake ballots being cast, you can't if you don't have a name to attach to that ballot. So getting ineligible voters off the rolls is very, very important. And you're seeing wins in a few areas with this, all over the place. Also, I'd like to point out that for the first time in the Gallup poll, Republicans are in the lead for party ID. We're under 40 days to go until the election. We got Trump versus Harris, And for the first time in the third quarter of an election year, voters who say they identify as or lean toward the Republican Party are the majority. Of U.S. adults, 48% say they identified or lean toward the Republican Party, while 45% said the same of the Democrat Party. These figures are based on Gallup poll averaging taken during the third quarter, July to September. Gallup noted that party affiliation and voting are strongly predictive of individuals' vote choices, with the vast majority of identifiers and leaners voting for the candidate of that preferred party, and that there are typically more Democratic voters than Republican ones in the U.S. adult population. But again, for the first time, we're in the lead, 48 to 45. This is fantastic news. Like, we need to celebrate these wins and not be doom and gloom. We are winning. I am convinced. I am convinced that we're currently winning. I don't care what the news says. I don't care when they tell us it's going to be so tight. It's going to be a tight race. I'm convinced we're winning. I'm convinced. 100%. When the party had a larger number of voters affiliated with Democrats, the presidential candidate of the party won, including in 92, 96, 2012, 2020. In the years where there was a narrower difference in affiliated voters, Republicans won, 2000, 04, 16. And the polling in this company, Gallup, noted that Republicans have not had an outright advantage in party affiliation during the third quarter of a presidential election year, and have rarely outnumbered Democrats in the past 3 decades. Let's absolutely identify our wins and celebrate our wins. We're putting a lot of points on the board, guys. We are. We 100% are. And that's before we even get to the union workers overwhelmingly supporting Donald Trump. That's before we get to all the voter registration stuff that we talked about happening in Pennsylvania yesterday, you know, where they're flipping counties left and right with Scott Pressler out there in Pennsylvania. That's before we get to the Muslim majority town of Hamtramck, their Democrat mayor there in Hamtramck, Michigan, coming out and endorsing Donald Trump. We're getting some points on the board, and we have to acknowledge these wins. It's massive. It's massive. Not to mention, yesterday I brought you that story, mail-in voting has cratered in 3 states. One of them being Florida, but 2 of them being very consequential battleground states. North Carolina, mail-in voting has, requests for mail-in ballots has dropped by 15%. In Pennsylvania, requests for mail-in ballots have dropped by 35%. When you start taking all of these small stories and putting them together and creating a larger picture, I feel pretty good, guys. I feel pretty good. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to get black-pilled on this election because, what about the voter machines? What about illegal aliens? I look at the work that's being done on the ground, and I think we're doing a pretty damn good job. I think we're rocking right now. Trump has positive polling in Pennsylvania. He's got mail-in ballot requests down by 35% in Pennsylvania. Who votes by mail? Exactly. You know who votes by mail. Another one, less scientific, but it's a pretty good poll that has picked presidential winners for decades. Trump tops Kamala 54 to 39% in the Cincinnati cookie poll. Yeah, I know this one's kind of random, but it's at stake. Let's celebrate our wins. The Buskin Bakery cookie poll has only been wrong once since its first run in 1984. Of course, that was in 2020 when more customers picked Trump over Biden. But what they do is they bake cookies, right? And they have one candidate's face on one cookie, they have another candidate's face on the other cookie, and they see which customers buy which cookie. It's not super scientific, but it's only been wrong once since 1984. They do it every presidential election, and every year, every time since 1984, it's been right except for one time, 2020. But cookie-loving voters in Cincinnati bought more Trump cookies, 54%, to Kamala Harris cookies, 39%. again, it's not as scientific, but I'm gonna take these wins where we can get them, and it continues to create that larger picture that I think we're in a very, very good spot. I do. And then you look at what Kamala's doing, how she's trying to get these friendly interviews with MSNBC, where even MSNBC's like, she didn't answer any questions. She sits down with Oprah to do a live stream. Barely anybody watches it. She's going to the border today. Her internal polling numbers must be terrible. Absolutely terrible. I'm convinced that her internal polling is awful. And just yesterday, she was with Vladimir Zelensky, and she had to tell everybody, hey, we got to get some more money for Ukraine. We can't let Russia win. I don't know if that's a popular position. I don't know if the majority of Americans are like, yeah, woo, World War III. Let's do it. Who's signing up for that? I don't know if that's the right move, but she did it. She stood there with Vladimir Zelensky yesterday and gave a bit of a press conference. I'm going to bring you that audio on the way. There's a lot more on the Chris Hand Show. Kamala, Zelensky, and Trump's reaction to it on the way. It's 10:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Helene affecting travel. Also, Donald Trump's weekend plans changed due to lack of security. Those stories at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jeff. It's 10:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Kamala Harris, she met with Zelensky yesterday. Donald Trump meeting with him a little while ago. I'll have that audio for you on the way as well. But Kamala meeting with Zelensky. Do you think she wrote him a blank check? Said, here, save this in case I win. Maybe. You know, in between Zelensky texting Trump yesterday saying, hey, we got to get together and hang out, and meeting Trump today, and in between campaigning with Kamala Harris and signing bombs with Josh Shapiro, Zelensky actually had some time to visit the White House and collect another $2.4 billion of our money from Joe Biden. So that's nice. That's exactly what we all wanted, right?
Are we really surprised, though?
No. It is. It feels like you could redo the entire blank check movie and just superimpose Zelensky over that kid. You could. Kamala Harris wants everybody to know, listen, the United States supports Ukraine. Guys, we love Ukraine. And, it's a strategic interest. We're not a charity. Oh, that's weird. We're doing this because security.
History has shown us if we allow aggressors like Putin to take land with impunity, they keep going. And Putin could set his sights on Poland, the Baltic states, and other NATO allies. We also know that other would-be aggressors around the world are watching.
Yeah, I think they are watching. I think they're watching the weakness of the Biden-Harris administration with the disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan, which essentially gave Putin the confidence to go into Ukraine. He didn't have that confidence when Trump was in office. Weird. Maybe I'm just being a conspiracy theorist. But I think that other would-be dictators and aggressors are looking at the presidential election and they're licking their chops thinking if Kamala Harris wins, hey, Taiwan, how you doing? Hey, Ukraine, we're going to take a little bit more. Nobody fears America right now because of the weakness that's in the White House. And Kamala Harris can try and separate herself from Joe Biden as best she can, but she's on record. I'm the last person in the room during the Afghanistan withdrawal, and I supported that decision like she did something good. Biden on The View yesterday saying, oh, Kamala's involved in everything. I trust her so much. I delegate foreign policy to her. I delegate domestic policy to her. As much as she wants to separate herself from Biden, it's like he just keeps clawing her back in. But yesterday, hey, we support Ukraine. We're not because we're doing a charity event.
To see what happens in Ukraine. If Putin is allowed to win, they will become emboldened. And history reminds us, and history is so clear in reminding us, the United States cannot and should not isolate ourselves from the rest of the world. Isolation is not insulation.
She's taking a shot at America first there. You know that, right? The isolationists. I consider myself an isolationist, but I don't look at it as like, oh, we can't help our allies. I look at it as like, hey, we haven't helped ourselves. We have a wide open southern border. We have veterans that are homeless. Like we could do a lot here with the tax dollars that we're paying out. But she's taking a shot at America first there. Make no mistake about it.
So then the United States supports Ukraine not out of charity, but because it is in our strategic interest. We will continue to provide the security assistance Ukraine needs.
How is it a strategic interest to start World War III? Asking for a friend. I don't know how that's a strategic interest. Kamala Harris says it is. At that same presser, Zelensky was there, and he was doing his best kissing up to Kamala Harris and the Biden-Harris regime.
Madam Vice President, thanks for the invitation. Happy to see you. Dear journalists, I want to especially thank you for your participation in the Peace Summit. And really, it was very important, and we remember it. The format was successful. We are preparing the second one now. We have to end this war. We need a just peace, and we must protect our people, Ukrainian families, Ukrainian children, and everyone from Putin's civil. And we are grateful to America for supporting Ukraine all along.
I don't really support this. I thank the Democrats. But I would point out, hey, Vladimir Zelensky, sir, if you're looking for peace, then your only option is Trump. It's been proven. Trump brought peace through strength. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have brought chaos through weakness. I'm going to bring you some audio of Donald Trump. He's meeting with Zelensky today, and clips are starting to come out from their meeting. We'll play those for you next. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 10:30. I'm Jeff Melanoff with your top stories. It's 70 degrees. Going to be raining all day today and the weekend. That full forecast coming in 2 minutes. Tropical Storm Helene update. As the storm moves up to the East Coast into the Carolinas and Virginia, this has caused issues with flights and other travel. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos.
The largest impact is being seen right now in the Southeast. Hundreds of flights canceled over the past 2 days in Charlotte, Atlanta, and Tampa as Helene moves through. And with multiple airports closed in Florida ahead of the storm's arrival, including Tampa International and St. Pete Clearwater, we could see ripple effects for flyers heading into the weekend.
Election 2024 news. Donald Trump changing his rally plans this weekend due to concerns over security. ABC's Perry Russum with more.
Trump facing a change of plans this weekend. Sources say the Secret Service told the campaign that agents do not have the manpower to secure an outdoor rally in Wisconsin, recommending an indoor event instead. Manpower stretched thin by events at the UN in New York this week.
Former President Donald Trump also made comments regarding the indictment of New York City Mayor Eric Adams while he was in New York yesterday.
When he talked about how the illegal migrants are hurting our city and the federal government should pay us and we shouldn't have to take them. And I said, you know what? He'll be indicted within a year. And I was exactly right.
That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jeff Malinoff, WTN News.
10:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you're just looking outside, you probably don't need to wait for the weather report. We got rain, a lot of rain. And if you have waterproofing issues at your home, you need to call the best. Call USS. My friends at United Structural Systems are your waterproofing experts, and they've been your waterproofing experts since 1994. Decades in the business. And if you see this rain and you're dreading what you might find in your basement or your crawl space, it is time to set those fears aside and call the experts. Call USS. If you have standing water in your crawl space, if you have wet basement walls, if you have cracks in your basement floors, this is your house trying to tell you something. And it's time to stop letting that water get in and cause chaos. It's going to cause chaos. It might not be a lot right now, but it could get worse. Call USS. They'll come out, create a custom solution for you and your home. They won't leave until the job is done and you're satisfied. And when they leave, the warranty stays for life. 615-488-7855. 615-488-7855. Call my friends at USS or hit up the website, USSTN.com.
I disagree, but I will say this. I believe I will be able to make a deal between President Putin and President Zelensky quite quickly.
But what does that look like? What does that look like? What does that do?
I don't want to tell you what that looks like.
That was President Trump out there at his presser yesterday outside of Trump Tower. What does that look like? I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you. The Kamala HQ Twitter account, they posted that like it's some sort of diss. I mean, that's rich, right? That's rich coming from Biden and Harris, who allowed the war to happen, who have been actively opposing a peace deal for 4 years now, right? They've been in office for 4 years. They've rejected all the plans for peace. All right, cool. Before that meeting with Zelensky that happened today, Donald Trump released a message that Zelensky sent to him about wanting to work together for peace. I mean, this is pretty cool. I like that Trump released it, and we'll get to that audio from Trump and Zelensky in a second. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTM. But yesterday, before his press conference in New York City, he put on Truth Social a message from Zelensky. And it said, would you be so kind to please pass this message to President Trump from President Zelensky? It says, Dear Donald, I hope you're doing well. I recall our recent phone call. It was really good. All of us in Ukraine want to end this war with a just peace. And we know that without America, this is impossible to achieve. That's why we have to strive to understand each other and remain in close contact. Days ago, we requested a meeting with you, and I really want to hear your thoughts directly and firsthand. You know I always speak with great respect about everything connected to you, and that's how it should be. I can be in New York on Friday, which would be a good time to meet. I believe it's important for us to have a personal contact and to understand each other 100%. Let me know if you're in the city at that time. I would really like for our meeting to take place as part of our efforts to help end this war in a just way. Sincerely, Vladimir. That's nice. It's a nice message. He wants peace. And he says, I want a just peace. So he wants it his way, right? And, I mean, good luck. You're going to have to give something up. You just are. And I think that that's something that we have to deal with, right? It's good. That's going to be the route. But the other side of it is just World War III. And do you want to launch long-range missiles into Russia and force their hand and go down that route? That's not something that I would do. I would not trade any major city in America for Kyiv in Ukraine. I just wouldn't. America first. I'm not even feeling bad about that a little bit. We have to take care of America first. Getting into a war with Russia doesn't necessarily help us. So Trump meets Zelensky, and there's a couple moments here that are pretty good. At one point, he brought up the impeachment hoax with the very, very, very fine phone call, if you recall.
And I will say I have had a great relationship. It was very honorable. I don't even know if you know this, but when they did the impeachment hoax, it was a hoax, just a Democrat hoax, which we won. But one of the reasons we won it so easily is that when the president was asked, it was over a phone call with the president, and he said he could have grandstanded and played cute, but he didn't do that. He said President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong.
The phone call was when they wanted to look into how Joe Biden's son got that job at Burisma, what happened with the prosecutor that Joe Biden's on video saying we should fire that guy and you're not getting your money unless you fire that guy, et cetera, et cetera. He says, Zelensky didn't play cute. Zelensky just is standing there looking as awkward as can be as Trump is saying this. He says Zelensky didn't play cute. He told them what really happened on that phone call, and that's why they won so easily.
He said it loud and clear. And the impeachment hoax died right there. He could have said, well, I don't know, I don't know. And I never even told you this, to be honest, but he was like a piece of steel. He said President Trump did nothing wrong. We had a very nice call. He congratulated me on his victory. It just won. And I remember that. He could have played cute, and he didn't play cute. And so I appreciated that. So we have a very good relationship. And I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved.
I have a good relationship with Zelensky, and I also have a good relationship with Putin. And if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved. Trump, in his foreign policy, he always does this. He plays both sides, and he does it really effectively. I think it's one of his strengths. I do. And for him to say, standing next to Zelensky, I also have a very good relationship with Putin, I like it. I'm here for it.
So we have a very good relationship. And I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly. I really think we're going to get it resolved.
I hope we have more good relations.
We're going to have, I see. Yeah, but you know, it takes two to tango.
He said, Zelensky looked at him. He goes, I have a very good relationship with Putin. Zelensky looks at him and says, well, I hope you have more good relations with us. And Trump laughs and goes, oh, I see. Well, it takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. Gosh, I love this guy. I do. What a madman. What a madman. I love it. I love it. It's so good. It's so good. So that's Trump's meeting with Vladimir Zelensky. They also did more of a formal interview with Fox here. And Trump is flanked by Zelensky. And he says, I learned a lot, but I think I haven't changed from the standpoint that we both want to see this end, and we both want to see a fair deal made.
Strongest of our soldiers, our people, of course, it will bring us closer to the peace. We need just peace. We need just peace. It's so important to have just peace for the people, especially for the families who lost their children. It's a big tragedy.
President Trump, have you changed your thoughts on how this war should end, what you think should be done, or do you still stand by some of the previous statements?
Well, I learned a lot, but I think I haven't changed from the standpoint that we both want to see this end, and we both want to see a fair deal made, and it's got to be fair, and I think that'll happen at the right time. I think it's going to happen. The president wants it to end, and he wants it to end as quickly as possible. He wants a fair transaction to take place, and I think right now I'm campaigning, so right now I don't have much to do with it other than we're doing very well in terms of the campaign, and I've been saying that I believe if I win, we're going to have a very fair and I think actually rather rapid deal. It should stop, and the president wants it to stop, and I'm sure President Putin wants it to stop.
I love how he's saying all of this standing right next to Zelensky. Have you changed your standpoint? Have you changed your mind? He goes, well, not really. Not really. I can't do much right now. I'm just campaigning, but, I think we could end it rather quickly. I think Zelensky wants to end it quickly. I think Putin wants to end it quickly, and we can get that done. I also want to point out, he is just campaigning, but if Zelensky didn't think there was a chance Trump could win, is this meeting happening? And you can say that with a lot of other world leaders who have taken the time when they visit New York or they visit America to take time out of their schedule to visit with President Trump. Take note of that. World leaders understand that Trump has a very real chance of winning this election. I think that he has a very great chance of winning this election. And I think that this meeting really does illustrate that. But he says, we can end it. We can end it soon. They try to get him to change his standpoint when he's standing there next to Zelensky, but Trump refuses to do so. He's like, no, I haven't really changed much. I haven't changed my mind much. I've learned, but I'm still where I'm at.
And that's a good combination. So we want to have a fair deal for everybody.
What do you envision as fair?
Well, it's too early to say that. I have my own ideas, and I'm sure the president definitely has his own ideas, but it has to be fair.
This war shouldn't be started, and I think that the problem that Putin killed so many people, and of course we need to do everything to pressure him to stop this war, and he's on our territory. That is the most important to understand. He's on our territory, and
I think the most important thing to understand is that Zelensky said this war shouldn't have started, and it wouldn't have if we had Donald Trump in office. Now, we're dealing in hypotheticals, but I just believe that Afghanistan withdrawal was so weak. It made us look so weak that Putin understood that was his time to move. I think we can all agree on that.
And how to stop the war, to pressure him as we can, as we can. We have to do it.
And do you think the U.S. is the best?
The U.S. is the leader. U.S. is the leader of support. U.S. is the leader in the world, and of course we value the support of the United States. We're thankful to the United States, the people of America, and of course we understand that United States can be the leader through any negotiation. You know that we have the peace summit, and we want to organize the second one, and we count on this.
I know you're both in a rush. Last question. Will there be another meeting in the near future between you?
Could very well happen, but I think the president said it the best. This is a war that should have never happened. It should have never happened, and it wouldn't have happened. It's a shame, but this is a war that should have never happened, and we'll get it solved. It's a complicated puzzle, very complicated puzzle, but we'll get it solved, and people get on with their lives. Too many people dead. Too many beautiful cities. I've seen those cities. They're so beautiful, and they, I don't know how you can ever rebuild them the way they were. It's not possible.
You have to come, by the way, to see our city.
I will. It's a beautiful country, beautiful weather, beautiful everything, but we have to get this over with. But it's a war, and the president agrees. This is a war that should have never happened.
And it wouldn't have if Donald Trump was in office. I fully believe that. There's no chance that this war would have happened if Trump was in office. None. But that's what leadership looks like, guys. He's standing next to Zelensky. He doesn't waver his position. He stands firm in what he believes, and it kind of pushes back. Oh, have you changed? Well, I've learned some things, but I'm still where I'm at. The difference between his press conference and Kamala's press conference with Zelensky, and I say press conference, Kamala ran out of the room before taking any questions. She didn't take any questions. She doesn't know how to take questions. She needs to read from a script like a robot, or she's not up to the task. But the difference is, like, you look at Trump and Zelensky, and Trump is clearly in control. Even when they were walking into their meeting room, at one point, Trump points to a seat, looks at Zelensky, points to a seat, and goes, "You're right there." Trump is in control every step of the way. On the flip side, it's like Biden and Kamala are like, how much did you say you needed to borrow, hun? How much do you need this time? The difference is incredible. The difference is incredible. I said it a little while ago. It's like Zelensky's all over the place. He's texting Trump yesterday. He's meeting with Trump today. He's been campaigning with Kamala Harris. He's signing bombs with Josh Shapiro. And he still has time to stop by the White House and collect his $2.4 billion in cash before he heads home. As Trump puts it, Zelensky is the greatest salesman ever. Anytime, any place, he needs a little bit of money, and he just walks in, and they cut him a check. They cut him a check instantly. The greatest salesman of all time. Still wears the same shirt every day. I don't understand that. But with all the billions we give him, get a different outfit. It's crazy, man. A lot of stuff moving, a lot of stuff shaking. And Donald Trump is out there meeting with President Zelensky. At the same time, he had a lot more to say about Kamala Harris and her role at the border yesterday during his press conference in New York. Trump was going in on Kamala. And I just can't get enough of this audio. I can't. Trump was pure Trump. Pure Trump. I love this clip. I love this clip a lot.
But he's saying, oh, gee, she's done a fabulous job. She's done the worst job probably in the history of any border, not just our border. She keeps talking about how she supposedly wants to fix the border. We would merely ask, why didn't she do it 4 years ago? It's a very simple question. I can say this with everything she has. She talks about borders and taxes and all these different things. Her policies on tax, by the way, are terrible, but I can say it for everything. Why didn't she fix it almost 4 years ago? She's got no plans, got no talent, got no ability to do it.
Populations of animals. I mean, think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey and what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years, I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
You're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And my first commission in 1972.
Okay, yeah.
At that time, it was a little different. The whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, we got the first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. And I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to. If you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or sailing a pond or whatever you were doing. You had that tie on.
Oh wow!
Wow!
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. It was generally around April the 1st. You switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, "Come on, April 1st."
All right, Briley Parkway southbound between McGavick Pike, exit 12, and Opry Mills, exit 11, is closed for a crash investigation. Looks like road work is blocking the left lane of 24 downtown eastbound at the I-40 split. Got a crash blocking the left lane of 440 eastbound right before I-24. And then the HOV lane is blocked, Murfreesboro Road, both east and westbound there at Southwinds Drive. Hear what former President Trump just said with Ukraine's president standing next to him at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. Those clips are so good that's coming out of that meeting. The spine of steel that Trump has is amazing.
The dude he's a businessman. He knows what he's doing.
Well, it's just like when you hear him talk, it's like he understands that everything he says is going into the negotiating process.
Absolutely. He knows ahead of time.
Every step of the way. And to smoothly say I have a good relationship with Putin while he's standing next to Zelensky is just, it's incredible. He's doing the right thing.
Well, he said yesterday, too, and you didn't see it anywhere else, but you heard it right here. He said his goal is to save lives.
Yeah. On both sides. And he does play the both sides so often. You know, when he was talking about the war in the Middle East, when he was running for president in 2016 and he called Iraq a mistake, he's like, guys, there were so many lives lost on both sides. He does that so often, and I love it. But the contrast between Kamala Harris's interview presser with Zelensky and what we see from Trump has been on full display. Dana Perino said that yesterday on The Five. Listen to this.
Right. So she does one interview with a friendly interviewer, her first solo interview after she became the nominee 65 days ago. She cannot answer a question with actual sentences and words and punctuation.
Words are hard.
And it kind of pains me to say it because I think, what have you been doing for 4 years? Do you not have any set of principles or an understanding of first of all, she doesn't have any way she has not figured out how to separate herself from Biden.
She can't.
And then Biden yesterday said she was there every step of the way.
Yeah.
She's completely linked with me. The media is so hungry for any sort of attention that even the New York Times today basically laughed at her interview. Mm-hmm. If you look at the local press, which was in Pittsburgh where her speech was yesterday, there's nothing on the front page of the local paper about it because there was no news in the speech.
Yikes. Even when she's trying to lay out her vision, she makes no news. That's Kamala Harris for you. Wait until you hear what the kids think about Kamala. It's always about the kids, right? I'll tell you what the kids think about Kamala on the way. It's 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11 o'clock on the dot this wet Friday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. The remnants of Hurricane Helene, now a tropical storm dumping a lot of rain on Tennessee. We'll tell you for how long coming up during the full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now in New York City, a meeting between Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky and former President Trump. Zelensky said he thinks he and Trump have a common view that the war in Ukraine has to be stopped and Putin can't win and Ukrainians have to prevail. And he said he wants to discuss that with the president and his plan of victory. As for Trump, here's what he said.
We're going to sit down and just discuss it. And if we have a win, I think long before January 20th, before I would take the presidency, it's January 20th. But long before that, I think that we can work out something that's good for both sides.
Right now at the UN General Assembly in New York. Some world leaders cheered, others jeered, and left the room when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took to the podium. Netanyahu delivered an address that says they're not putting up with terrorists.
Israel will reject any rule for Hamas in a post-war Gaza. We don't seek to resettle Gaza. What we seek is a demilitarized and de-radicalized Gaza.
Well, right now they're focused on Hezbollah in Lebanon. Right now we're seeing reports of strong explosions shaking Beirut as Israel is striking Hezbollah sites. The cleanup is underway in Florida after Helene made landfall as a Cat 4 hurricane, washing out communities in the Big Bend region. Governor Ron DeSantis.
We did report that there was a traffic fatality last night. We also this morning can report that there's been another fatality reported in Dixie County due to a tree falling on the home.
Tampa itself saw high winds and heavy rains. Jim Ryan with our team coverage.
Even before landfall, the Category 4 hurricane was battering Florida's Gulf Coast as it moved north toward the Big Bend region. Tampa Fire Chief Barbara Tripp has ordered boats into the water.
We have responded to over 200 medical and fire-related calls, anywhere from power lines down to burning vehicles, burning homes.
At least 6 people in 3 states have died as a result of the storm.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to MarketSpan.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
.1106 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Don't forget, Debate Watch Party happening on Tuesday. Hop Springs in Murfreesboro. Brian Wilson's going to be doing his whole show out there live. Myself, Mandis Murphy, are going to be joining him on the air at about 6 o'clock there. We're going to be there earlier than that. But then we're going to watch the debate with you. Fox Nation is going to be in attendance. Our friends at the GlockStore are going to be in attendance. They're bringing a bunch of prizes, including a new Glock and some free range sessions that are just going to be awesome. I don't know which one you need more, but the range sessions, I have a hard time believing that that's a second place prize.
Oh, absolutely. You gain so much knowledge from just that.
Well, yeah, because it's not a lane range. It's a private shooting room with an instructor. Like, it's just completely different. So
yeah, it's great.
Shout out to the GlockStore for bringing those prizes to our debate party. If you want to come, it's free. We want you there. 997WTN.com for more info. Real quick, I got Daryl in the borough on the line. He's been holding for a minute, and he wants to talk about a topic that we talked about a few days ago. pastors voting. Daryl, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, man? Thanks for holding.
Hey, just enjoying listening to the show and drinking a cup of coffee. I was wondering, you mentioned the other day that you had a pastor friend that listens to the show, and he said that he wasn't voting this election.
Yes, it boiled down to the fact that Trump is just too immoral for him to vote for him.
Oh, well, I have to inform him that, man, it is his duty to vote. I mean, what would Moses say? What would Daniel say? What would Esther say? What would Nehemiah say? Or Isaiah or Jeremiah or even Paul or Jesus himself? I mean, you've got to get in here and you've got to make decisions. You've got to think of the good for the country and about the people that have died so that he can actually express his opinion to change the culture.
Yep.
And he has to do this. I mean, even if he was to vote Democrat, I would be happier than him not voting at all, because he's got to make an account for himself whenever he meets the big guy.
See, I would argue if you think that it's immoral to vote for Trump, not voting at all is a vote for Harris, and you're voting for a party that wants abortion on demand. In that case, you're voting for a party that loses 325,000 plus kids at the border that are undoubtedly sold into sex slavery or forced labor or worse. And you know, you talk about immoral. There's only one side that I look at and I go, they're completely immoral. Now, does the Republicans have their flaws? Is there immoral people inside the ranks? Yes, absolutely. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that we're even close on the who's more immoral than the other scale.
Absolutely. We're voting for a president, not a savior.
Amen. Amen. I appreciate the call, Daryl. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you holding as well. That was a big conversation, and I already see people hopping on the line to weigh in on that. Our conversation that we had about that is actually up on the YouTube page. Mason's been doing some stuff where we're clipping them down so they're a little bit more easy to watch. It's not just the 3-hour long live video. You can watch more segment-based videos as opposed to, 3 hours with the commercial break still in there. So Mason's been doing a good job with that. But I also wanted to talk about Mandis had a great break this morning, and I was listening to it nonstop because it was just so good about kids in politics. And I have 4 young kids, 2, 5, 7, 10. I'm in a weird house, right? Like I do this radio show, and then I work with Turning Point USA. So we talk about politics all the time. So I understand that maybe my views are a little bit more warped when it comes to talking about politics with your kids. But how do you talk about politics with your kids? Do you talk about politics with your kids? I'm going to steal the idea from Mandis because it was such a great segment, and he got it from this CNN interview. And I want to know what your thoughts are. 615-737-9986. CNN had a gang of kids together, and they wanted to know their thoughts on the presidential politics, the presidential race. And some of the clips coming out of it are just downright hilarious, like this one.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris? Liar.
Jesus. That would be one of my kids. My kids. We were when we went to visit Arizona a while back, and we went to the Grand Canyon. We did all the things. We went to Turning Point headquarters, all the things, right? And we landed in Arizona. It's like 11 o'clock at night. It's late. The kids are gassed from flying, and of course, I start talking politics with the Uber driver taking us to our Airbnb. And my son Brooks, who's the 7-year-old, he's falling asleep in the back seat. He was 6 at the time. So he's falling asleep. And I'm talking with the Uber driver, who's a legal immigrant, good guy. And I was like, who are you voting for? And he says to me, well, I don't want you to get upset, but I'm voting for Trump. At which point, my 7-year-old in the back seat pops up and he screams, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's my boy Trump," at like 11:30 at night. So when this kid says, "What's the first word that pops into your mind when you hear Kamala?" and he says liar, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know that feel." I can imagine his parents are similar to my parenting style, but he wasn't the only kid that was asked about his thoughts on Trump. There was another girl that was asked about her thoughts on Trump, and this girl, a young, beautiful little black girl, and she's asked about her views, and she says, it'd be pretty cool to have a first black woman president, and you can understand where she's coming from. I get it. I totally get it.
It'd be good for us to have a black woman as president for the first time in history. Yeah. But
you hear the reporter? She goes, "Yeah." This is a CNN reporter, so she's thinking in her head like, I got the clip. But immediately after this young girl says that, she essentially goes, "Psych."
My vote's kind of still on Trump.
Psych. Listen, I know you work for a leftist rag organization of CNN, and I understand that you want me to say this, so I'll say it. I'll start out the right way, and I'm going to go, "Psych." Still voting Trump. It'd be great. It'd be great to have for us to have a first black woman as president. It would be awesome. Psych. Still voting Trump. That's almost my favorite clip, especially when you hear the CNN reporter go, "Yeah, yes, that would be great, wouldn't it?" You could hear it in her voice, the excitement that she gets. It's so good. So good.
Have a black woman as president for the first time in history. Yeah. But my vote's kind of still on Trump.
So good. How do you talk about politics with your kids? 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. There was another point in this interview with these kids where they're really going down the line of like red kids versus blue kids. Kids that are raised in Republican households versus kids that are raised in Democrat households. And this is an important distinction because they're asked, would your parents let you go over to a Trump supporter's house? Or would your parents let you go over to a Kamala supporter's house? And the difference in the answers is mind-blowing.
The study found that Republican-leaning kids were more open to visiting a Democrat-supporting household. The Democrat-leaning kids were about 5 times more likely to say they would not want to go to a pro-Trump house.
So the kids that are in Republican households are saying, "Yeah, I would go to a Republican house," and then the kids in a Republican house say, "Yeah, I'd go to a Democrat house." The kids in the Democrat house go, "Oh no, I wouldn't go visit some Republicans." And some of these answers, I'll be honest with you, they just like, it hurts my heart that these kids are being fed this kind of propaganda and this narrative about evil MAGA Republicans, because it's just not the case. And it's like, when you listen to these answers, you'll understand where I'm coming from.
Would they be okay with you going over to somebody's house who is really supportive of President Trump?
No.
No? And why not?
Because they know that he's not like black people. So.
Would your parents let you go over to a house that supported President Trump? And this young black kid says no, because they know that he doesn't like black people. How sad is that? How sad is that? It breaks my heart a bit, man. It really does. It's like this poor kid is like already indoctrinated in the leftist worldview of victimization. And he thinks that there are people out there that already look at him differently because of his skin color. And that's not the case in this country. It breaks my heart for him. It really breaks my heart for him. And I wonder why the parents are telling him that people hate him because of his skin color. It just blows my mind.
Somebody's house who is really supportive of President Trump?
No.
No. And why not?
Because they know that he's not like black people, so they will not be happy to see me.
Oh, so he knows. Would you go to a Republican house? No, because they know Trump doesn't like black people, so they would not be happy to see me. Oh my gosh, this poor kid. I want to just give him a hug and be like, "Hey, bud, like full MAGA over here, and I love you, man. Like, what kind of parent would pump that into their kids? Breaks my heart. It hurts my soul.
Would your family let you go over to somebody's house who's really supportive of Donald Trump?
No.
No, they wouldn't?
No.
And why not?
Because, my mom and dad don't like Donald Trump at all. Not a single bit.
Would you?
Now, that's the answer that they get from Democrat kids. No. My parents don't like him at all. Not a single bit. No. My parents know that Trump hates black people, so they'd be unhappy to see me. They wouldn't be happy to see me. It's heartbreaking. And then you listen to the conservative kid when he's asked the exact same question and listen to what he said. These are young kids. They can't be older than 6 or 7. But the conservative kid has the American answer, which is the right answer. Listen to this.
Would you be okay going over to somebody's house whose family really likes Kamala Harris?
I think it'd be fine. It's just about the personality of the people.
I think it'd be fine. It's just about the personality of the people. The kid's absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it just, that one kid, well, he says, no, Trump doesn't like black people, so they wouldn't be happy to see me. Oh my gosh. It breaks my heart. It literally breaks my heart. Bobby in Nashville, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What do you got?
Oh, I mean, this Democrat-Republican stuff, that's what has separated so many people, because I really, be honest with you, don't understand what a Democrat or what a Republican is, other than someone's different values. We're all human. We just want a good, clean America, good, clean drinking water, a nice place to live with, and our kids being able to go to the deadgum park without some stalker.
Amen.
Or some person trying to take them.
Yeah.
Fuck, what happened to freedom?
Yep. I hear you, man. I mean, appreciate the call.
And
let's go to Joshua in Vermont. Josh, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, man?
Hi, Chris. I was just answering your question about what I taught my kids, and I started really early when they were like 4 and 5 and 6 years old. And what I did was I didn't preach to them. I asked them questions of how they felt about illegal aliens coming over the border, them overrunning towns, and just how expensive stuff were. And they would answer the questions for me, and that made them who they are today. Now they're 19 and 16 and both staunch conservatives, and they get it. They totally get it. But I put it on them.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. Kids will figure it out. They're smart. They're real smart. But does it not break your heart when you hear that young black kid say, well, a Trump house wouldn't like me because Trump doesn't like black people?
Totally. Yeah, it breaks my heart.
Like that feels like child abuse to me.
It's terrible.
It's awful, man. Yeah. It's awful.
Right. All right.
Hey, appreciate your call. This CNN stuff is crazy. Get ready to see more of this this kind of content. I've heard that Nickelodeon is working on something like similar to this, where they're going to have conservative kids versus Democrat kids in the lead up to the election. They're looking for kids now. It's insane. It's a wild piece done on CNN. And the Republican kids just seem more well-adjusted. They seem more normal. They do. The poor leftist kids and the indoctrination that's being filled in their minds, it just breaks my heart. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, Briley Parkway southbound is closed between McGavick Pike and Opry Mills. We're told that at least one person was taken to the hospital in critical condition from this crash. Elsewhere, some emergency road work on 24 eastbound downtown is underway, and it is backing up 24 beyond the 65 split north of downtown. Got a crash blocking 40 westbound at Central Pike, and then the left lane is blocked Murfreesboro Road, both east and westbound at Southwinds Drive. A lot of rain out there. That's from a hurricane, or rather what was Hurricane Helene. We'll tell you what she's doing now at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken. It's 11:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis just sent me this story. He's like, oh, man, did you see this? Did you see this? And I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it. Thank you, Dan, for sending it in. So there's flash flooding going on in Atlanta. And Fox News, Fox and Friends this morning, they were going to a reporter there live, at which point he realized a woman drove into flooded waters. And he called 911 and then decided to interrupt his newscast because he had to go save that woman live on TV.
You know, I was ready to play the Fox, we're Fox News and we suck bit.
No, don't do that.
That's not at all.
Don't do that.
That's awesome.
This guy's a hero. Listen to this.
That's awesome.
It's about a 2-minute clip. Listen to this. It's pretty crazy.
Working to save lives. Hey, Bob, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you. I got you loud and clear. And you can see right here, we've got this lady drove into the area that's flooded out, and she's screaming right now. I just called 911. Fire department is coming in, but she drove right into the flood waters. This is the Peachtree Creek, and it is rising at the moment. We've got this thing cresting at about 23 feet. It's going to go up a little bit more. This, by the way, we had the video of the high water rescues earlier. That was about a mile away from this spot where I am right now. So people are still driving around and seeing all these floodwaters and still going around the barriers and getting in. So I am patiently waiting for 911 to come. They said the fire department was coming from Atlanta. I'm in North Atlanta right now on the corner of Northside Street, Northside Drive. It's a pretty big populated area right here.
So this is about 6 a.m. our time. And he's like, I'm waiting for 911. You can hear this woman screaming in the background as her car is submerged in flooded waters. And this guy essentially stops waiting.
She is still screaming, but we got you. We got you. 911, they're coming. You're good. You're good. Oh, man, it's a situation. We will get back to you in a little bit. I'm going to go see if I can help this lady out a little bit more, you guys. I'll be back.
Yeah. All right, Bob.
So he interrupts.
To go help them. Bob,
he interrupts what he's doing. He says, "I'll be right back."
You see that,
and he starts walking through the floodwater
as it looks to get to that path. He's going to try to help her out, but it's a dangerous situation, even for firemen to get across.
And here's the thing, as we just heard from Michael Estime in Tampa, if people are thinking about going out and walking through the area, I can't tell you how many times we have warned through the decades from this program is during a hurricane or high water event, sometimes, you think, I'm going to walk right over there. If a manhole has popped out, you would walk that way and go straight down into a manhole, which...
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous out there in the floodwaters. It's insane. But this guy left his reporting spot to go save this woman. It's incredible. There's pictures of him on the internet carrying her through the floodwaters.
Wow.
You love to see it. You love to see it.
It's like that's dangerous on his end as well. Like he knows the risk, but that's hats off to him, man.
It's incredible, man.
That's awesome.
It's absolutely incredible what he did out there.
Just picked her up about 5 minutes ago.
That's right.
You're
Bob,
amazing.
Yeah, there they are.
Bob, a heroic act, but you're never supposed to do any of that stuff. Is your wife watching you right now on TV? Because you've got a lot of explaining to do.
You know what? I texted her. I said, let's just keep this under wraps. She doesn't know what happened or anything.
I'm going to text her right now.
Don't tell her. You guys.
Allie.
And there's video of him carrying her through this flooded water that they're playing on Fox. Incredible. Fox weather reporter rescues woman from flooding in Atlanta. Unbelievable. Look for the heroes. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, Briley Parkway southbound is closed for a serious crash between McGavick Pike and Opry Mills. At least one person taken to the hospital there with critical injuries. Helene is now a tropical storm and dumping rain on Tennessee. We understand there's some flooding in parts of the eastern part of Tennessee right now. The death toll continues to rise. Now 22 deaths blamed on Helene in Florida, Georgia, and Governor Roy Cooper's state of North Carolina.
Sadly, our hearts are heavy as we report 2 deaths, one in Catawba County due to a motor vehicle collision on a flooded roadway, and one in Charlotte due to a tree falling on a home.
Former President Trump meeting with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky today.
Days after he told an interviewer that Donald Trump only thinks he knows how to end the war, Volodymyr Zelensky stood by Trump's side, saying the two share the view that the fighting in Ukraine has to be stopped.
And Putin can't win.
Trump told reporters it takes 2 to tango. He added it's a very good sign that he's meeting with Zelensky at all.
And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly.
Middle East wars, Beirut getting rocked by Israeli bombs as I speak. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the UN General Assembly today. He said Hezbollah terrorists are to blame for all of the murders it has committed.
It has murdered more Americans and more Frenchmen than any group except bin Laden. It's murdered the citizens of many countries represented in this room. And it has attacked Israel viciously over the last 20 years. In the last year, completely unprovoked.
Yeah, so for all of the countries, including the U.S., that have warned Israel not to expand the war, Hezbollah ignored warnings not to get involved too and started bombing Israel first. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. 11:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. You hear us talking about GlockStore and how they love parties. You can do your birthday, your retirement, corporate team building, all at the GlockStore. And you've also been hearing us talk about the VP debate party, which we're having on October 1st, Tuesday, at Hop Springs and Murfreesboro. The GlockStore heard us talking about that party, and the GlockStore loves parties, and they called us up and said, it's not going to be a party without prizes. I was like, okay, all right. They said, can we do a raffle at the event? Yeah. What do you want to give away? And they said, all right, how about this? Third prize, tactical rehydration mug. It's this mug with a real AR handle. You've never seen anything like it. I haven't either, but it's cool. Second place, 3-session range card. This isn't a lane range. It's a private shooting room with a private instructor. I feel like that should be first prize, but that's second prize. And then for first prize, they're going to give away a Glock 43X MOS. It's only the most popular Glock in the country. You have to be at Hop Springs October 1st to register to win at the big WTN party. And then Lenny McGill himself will be on the air with Murphy on Wednesday announcing the winners. So join us October 1st, Hop Springs, Murfreesboro. Get yourself signed up to win these GlockStore parties. Now, we really know why they always say there ain't no party like a GlockStore party. Minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
$11:36 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on air. You can listen to the show wherever you go with the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, the 99.7 WTN app. You can watch the show, Supertalk TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Podcasts available on Apple and Spotify. Are you red-pilled on fluoride? Are you red-pilled on fluoride? I was asking Mason this off the air, and they said, oh, yeah, I'm hip to the game. You're hip to the game on fluoride?
Just a little bit, yeah.
I feel like it's like millennials and younger are kind of more in the weeds on this. Not a knock on any older generations. A lot of the older generations do understand what's going on with fluoride. But did you hear that there was a wild court ruling about water fluoridation? Did you know that?
No, lay it on me.
All right, so a federal court in California has ruled that water fluoridation poses an unreasonable risk to children. Now, I don't know if you know this, but fluoride is classified as a neurotoxin. They put it into a lot of the water supply, and they say it's for your teeth. It's for them teeth. You got to keep your teeth healthy. You got to take care of the teeth. But after a precedent-setting 7-year legal battle in federal court, we now have a historic ruling by the United States District Court of Northern District of California. They have ordered the U.S. EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, to take regulatory action to eliminate the unreasonable risk to the health of children posed by the practice of water fluoridation. What? I thought this was a conspiracy theory. I've been told for years that it's a conspiracy theory that fluoride is bad for you. This verdict is actually a huge loss for the EPA and the promoters of fluoridation, like the American Dental Association and the U.S. Center for Disease Control, because the court found that their claims of safety, which have been made for over 75 years, actually are not supported by evidence at all. Huh, weird. You know, yesterday we were talking with Alex Clark about, you know, the medical industrial complex and the food industrial complex and all the poison that they're putting in our food that's outlawed in other places. And it goes directly even to the water supply. Senior Judge Edward Chen wrote, the court finds that fluoridation of water at 0.7 milligrams per liter, the level presently considered optimal in the United States, poses an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children. The court finds that there is an unreasonable risk of such injury, a risk sufficient to require the EPA to engage with a regulatory response. Interesting. Now, I've been anti-fluoride for a while. Not gonna lie to you. Even with my kids, we do fluoride-free toothpaste because I understand if you swallow it, you're putting this toxin into your system. It's not good for you. So when I read this, I was shocked. I was surprised, and then it's in California of all places. Wild. The judge went on to say, in all, there is substantial and scientifically credible evidence establishing that fluoride poses a risk to human health. It is associated with a reduction in the IQ of children and is hazardous at dosages that are far too close to fluoride levels in drinking water of the United States. Reduced IQ poses serious harm. Studies have linked IQ decrements of even 1 or 2 points to reduced educational attainment, employment status, productivity, and earned wages. Now, the ruling did not specify exactly what measures must be adopted by the EPA. But under the Toxic Substances Control Act, the TSCA, once the court rules that a chemical poses an unreasonable risk, the EPA is then obligated by law to restrict or eliminate the risk. Judge Chen has described a range of options regarding fluoridation, including banning it outright, but he warned one thing the EPA cannot do, however, in the face of this court's finding, is to ignore that risk. This is wild. This is wild. Again, I've been aware of this for a while. Ever since we had our first daughter in 2013, I was going down rabbit holes on health and all of this stuff. And the fluoride stuff always really shook me. It always did. It's a neurotoxin. When you see the hazmat suits that these guys are in when they're putting it into the water supply, it just kind of raises some eyebrows. And again, I use non-fluoridated toothpaste because I don't want my young kids swallowing it. You know, there's a brand of water called Pure Life that they give to babies, which is it has added fluoride in it, which is just insane to me. It's insane. It's available at every grocery store in the country, and it says with added fluoride, like it's a benefit. It always blows my mind that they say it's a benefit. And now this court ruling really kind of hammers home that fluoride in drinking water is a risk, an unreasonable risk. Some notable excerpts from this ruling. On page 3, they say there is little dispute in this suit as to whether fluoride poses a hazard to human health. Indeed, EPA's own expert agree that fluoride is hazardous at some level of exposure, and ample evidence establishes that a mother's exposure to fluoride during pregnancy is associated with IQ decrements in her offspring. Well, that's wild. On page 5, this is another notable excerpt from the ruling. The pooled benchmark dose analysis concluded that a 1-point drop in IQ of a child is expected to be for each 0.28 milligram liters per liter of fluoride in a pregnant mother's urine. This is highly concerning because maternal urinary fluoride levels for pregnant mothers in the United States range from 0.8 milligrams per liter at the median and 1.89 milligrams per liter, depending upon the degree of exposure. Not only is there an insufficient margin between the hazard level and these exposure levels, for many, the exposure levels exceeded the hazard level of 0.28 milligrams. Yeah, very much so exceeded it. How about this? Page 5. Even if the toxicology determined hazard level of 0.28 milligrams per liter were deemed insufficiently substantiated, evidence in the record still establishes with little doubt that fluoridated drinking water presents a risk of injury to health. Let me say this. Let me say this one more time. Evidence in the record still establishes with little doubt that fluoridated drinking water presents a risk of injury to health. I mean, this is a story written for the Red Pilled Mom Club, right? Like, if you've ever had a inkling that this could be a bit off, this court ruling is in your favor. This is something that you can lean on. Page 77. The scientific literature in the record provides a high level of certainty that a hazard is present. Fluoride is associated with reduced IQ. There are uncertainties presented by the underlying data regarding the appropriate point of departure and exposure level to utilize in this risk evaluation, but those uncertainties do not undermine the finding of an unreasonable risk. In every scenario utilizing any of the various possible points of departures, exposure levels, and metrics, a risk is present in view of the applicable uncertainty factors that apply. So just the fact that, it was less than what they say is bad. It's like, yeah, but it varies too much. And the level of risk, the level of hazard is present, and it's too high. So you got to do something. The EPA has been told you have to do something. This lawsuit was brought under the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976, and it allows citizens to create a petition to the EPA to evaluate whether a chemical presents an unreasonable risk to public health and should be regulated. And it also empowers citizens to get together, group up, and challenge the EPA in court after denial of a petition. The TSCA gives the EPA the authority to prohibit the particular use of a chemical substance if it's found to present an unreasonable risk to the general public or susceptible subpopulations. And that's what they found. It's precedent setting. This is the first time a citizen's petition has gone to trial like this. It's the first time a citizens group has won a trial against the EPA under the TSCA Section 21. And the case and the victory is going to create more opportunities for citizens and environmental watchdog groups to use this exact same blueprint and as a fan in the future to force the EPA to adequately regulate chemicals that pose an unreasonable risk to public health. Again, yesterday we were talking about the chemicals in the foods that pose an unreasonable risk to our health that are already banned in so many other countries. This is a precedent setter to give you a blueprint and a roadmap on how we fight back against that in America. This trial was also the first time that a citizen group have successfully obtained a full objective review of the science on fluoridation in a courtroom with experts under oath, under the TSCA's provisions that create a level playing field between the citizen groups and the EPA, and the EPA is defending a chemical. Under more statutes, when citizens sue a federal agency, under most statutes, when citizens sue a federal agency, the courts give deference to the views of the agency. But in this lawsuit, under a special provision of the TSCA, the court does not give deference to the EPA. Congress specifically added this level playing field because it recognized the EPA can be too slow to address harmful chemical exposures. And it's getting picked up all over the media. CBS is covering this, Bloomberg is covering this, CNN, Reuters, The Hill, Politico, and on and on and on it goes. ABC even covered it. Their headline says, fluoride in drinking water poses enough risk to merit new EPA action, the judge says. Subheadline says, a federal judge has ordered the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to further regulate fluoride in drinking water because high levels could pose a risk to the intellectual development of children. Now, they err on the side of caution here, and that's fine. If they want to say, it could. It's not, but it could. That doesn't change the outcome of this lawsuit, which is a massive win for everybody that's been kind of red-pilled on what fluoride is and what it's doing in the water supply. The EPA has to change this now. Has to change it. Again, in the ruling, the judge wrote, simply put, the risk to health at exposure levels in the United States drinking water is sufficiently high to trigger regulatory response by the EPA. And under federal law, they have to do something about it. Kudos to this citizen group for getting this done. And this is a big win for everybody paying attention. This is the same kind of thing where, a few months back, we had Monty Fritz on the show, and he was banning the aerosol spraying in the air in Tennessee, and people thought you're crazy. What are you doing? And you can make the argument it's slowed down a bit. It's still going on, and people have made that argument either way. But these things are real. And if you're paying attention, you know that they're real. And when you see big court wins like this, man, you got to celebrate it. You got to celebrate your wins when you get them. You have to. They'll tell you, but fluoride, it prevents tooth decay. It's, topically on your teeth. Yeah, it can. But ingested at those levels poses too much of a risk. Way too much. I like this. I like this a lot. Huge fan. 11:49. We'll check in with Matt Murphy on the way. See what's coming up on Murphy's Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Populations of animals. I mean, think about the white-tailed deer and how when Ed started, and maybe even before Ed a little bit, they started, working to bring these populations back. And now we have these sustainable populations that we can hunt.
Yeah.
The story of the eastern wild turkey and what's happening with turkeys. So I would consider all these things great successes. The conservation efforts that have been worked on by the personnel for years, I would think that it's a great success story for our state.
You're going to see some footage from an old film that was produced here at the agency in the Game and Fish days, and which shows some things like, the wife taking care of the animal that the officer, the husband, had to bring home to take care of, because they got a call, and times have changed. Now we have the rehabilitators that help out with that kind of thing. And
thank goodness. We got to be really good friends with some of those little animals. And my first commission in 1972.
Okay, yeah.
At that time, it was a little different. The whole law enforcement world was different then. So anyway, we got the first commission in 1972 and worked all over the state. It was really great to be able to do that. Pretty much, you had one uniform. And I noticed in the movie too, everybody wearing ties. For years and years, you had to. If you wore a long sleeve shirt, you had to wear a tie. It didn't matter if you were doing enforcement or sailing a pond or whatever you were doing. You had that tie on.
Oh wow! Wow!
And then everybody looked forward. There was one date, and it kind of moved. But generally around April the 1st, you switched from long sleeves to short sleeves, and you didn't have to wear a tie. And everybody's going, "Come on, April 1st."
11:57 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. On Tuesday, Matt Murphy is going to prison. Breaking news.
That is true. That is true.
Matt Murphy's going to prison on Tuesday. He'll be out. He'll be out. Don't worry. Lax bail. You'll be out in time for the debate watch party.
Leave the soap on the floor.
Soap on a rope, baby. I wrote a song in college, Ken, called "Don't Bend Over for the Soap."
Yes, sir.
It was a hit. Absolute hit.
We need to hear that.
Hey, no. I know. When you're doing time, don't bend over for the soap. That's a great.
I love it.
It's a great one.
I want to hear the hook.
Hey, I have. I can probably find it somewhere. So yeah, I'm going to. I'm very excited about this. I will not be here for the first hour or so of the show. My good friend Debbie Matthews is going to slide in for the first portion. I'll be in for the latter half. But I have an opportunity to tour a prison with the Men of Valor organization. They're bringing in Tim Tebow to speak to their group October 1st, the night of our debate watch. Otherwise, I would be there. Sadly, those two things conflict. But he'll be in Nashville October 1st, in Knoxville October 2nd, just speaking the faith. I mean, and what a faithful human being.
That is incredible. So there's a book that Tim Tebow wrote that I love. There's actually two versions of it. It's called Shaken. Mm-hmm. And it's like the whole story is like, who are you going to be when the world shakes you, and who are you when things are going good? And you should try and be the same person at both times, right, as close as you can. And there's a youth version that I've read to the kids, but he talks about touring these prisons, and he's been doing that since he was young.
Right.
Young, going in there and preaching the word, and I think that is it's incredible that you're going to be able to do that with him.
Well, to be able to watch the interaction between somebody like Tim Tebow, who is such a man of faith, and the prisoners in the system, and watch what Men of Valor do, just to kind of be a fly on that wall. But the rules, I was telling Hand right before we got on air, I got the rules package about what you need to do and not do in going into the prison, and you're allowed to take two things into the prison with you. Anybody want to guess what those two things are? Mason, you want to guess? You've been incarcerated a time or two. You want to guess what you can take in the prison system?
3 times. I want to make sure the record's straight.
Yeah. As a visitor, what are you allowed to take?
Probably my cell phone.
Nope.
Okay.
You cannot take your phone.
Okay. I guess my pocket knife's out of the question then.
Yeah, no, your Glock from the GlockStore. They don't appreciate that. The two things that you are allowed to bring with you to the prison: your identification,
okay,
and your car key. Not your car keys. And they're very specific about that. Just the singular key for your automobile. But other than that, no, nothing. Anyway, so I'm doing that on Tuesday. I'm very excited about that, and very, very excited about our debate watch party.
Both are going to be great. I think what you're going to do earlier in the morning is of more consequence to the world. That you're going to be rippling out some good vibes, and I think that's very cool, man. Well, I really do.
I love this. I mean, I know that I talk about them on my show. I love this organization because they remind the American people and the people of Tennessee that I understand that we want to put guys in prison that do bad things.
Yep.
You have to pay your punishment. 90% of those people that go in are coming out. What type of men do you want coming out?
Amen.
That's exactly. I mean, what type of men do you want coming out? That's the bottom line.
And they're willing to do the work.
By the way, real quick, can I do this real quick?
Do it real quick.
This is for Talk TV. So I bought this on clearance. This is, I'm a hat guy. I bought this hat on clearance. The Murphy household, the rest of the Murphy household, not a fan of this hat. I bought it on clearance because it's out of season now.
Okay.
But the rest of the Murphy household, not a fan of this hat, and I want to know what the audience thinks. The Super Talk TV audience. You ready?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Move it in front of your face.
I mean, that's good, right?
Yeah,
that's a good hat.
You are a little out of season, but that's a good one.
You wear it for next year.
The wife didn't appreciate it.
Not a fan.
Really?
To use the hand parlance, not a fan.
Oh, all right. Well,
so if you want to know what the hat says, Super Talk TV.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is high noon, and I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Looks like they have cleared that crash Briley Parkway southbound